Thanks, everybody.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope your last state session was productive. Again, I'm Tom Ackerman, Vice President for Education from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the co-chair of the work group. I wanted to start this closing wrap-up session by thanking, again, all of our facilitators and all of our speakers who created a really powerful day for us. Thank you to all the attendees for your full participation today. And we're looking forward to this last session to capture our shared learnings that we can move forward. My last thank you goes to all those folks from the state of Pennsylvania who co-hosted this event from DEP, DCNR, Department of Education, and the Department of Agriculture. So we want to make sure that we move this work forward. You know, we've heard a lot of inspirational ideas. We have heard, you know, two huge challenges here with climate education and equity. And we know we need to address these, and we need to address them meaningfully and at scale. The time is past for environmental literacy to be on the side of the plate. It needs to be at the center of the plate, especially in regards to climate change, which is potentially an existential threat to our species and our planet. So we need to address it as such, and we need to address it through education, as well as many other facets of policy and action. You know, in one of the sessions I was in, it was talked about how research gets research into climate catastrophe gets a huge amount of the resources dealt toward it. Right now, research is great, but we need to actually put some of those resources into the education side so that we can generate the public will, the political will, to take the actions that we need to take. And you know, we're lucky we've heard from some student voices throughout this conference who are in many ways leading the way. And we all know, all those of us who worked in this field, that equity is a huge challenge, and when it comes to environmental issues and environmental justice, that we need to involve every community. So what we would like to do is capture some of those ideas in two sessions or two activities quickly, because we're going to need to take all of the ideas, all of the great models, all of the ideas that we've captured today, and put them full force into our work over the next 2 years and beyond. And that's what we'll do. Many of you participate in the Bay Program Education Work Group. We will continue to work with our state partners to take these ideas and the priorities that we established today and put them into action through our state work plans and through our collective work across the watershed. So first, I'd like to invite everybody to very quickly think about everything that you learned today, from Dr. King's inspirational remarks down to our last session that we just came back from. And I'd like you to drop into the Padlet. And Krista, I'm hoping you can share that with everyone. What was the single most impactful idea you heard today? What do you think will move the needle on these issues that we're addressing? And so if you can go into the Padlet, and Krista, if you could also share screen. I'd love to give everyone maybe 90 seconds to drop in the single most impactful idea that you saw today or heard today. Give you 20 more seconds. It's powerful just to see all these ideas up on the screen. So thank you for processing this. Thank you for sharing this back out with us. It's pretty incredible. And we will work to move this forward. And the way that we're going to work to move it forward is again with our state partners. So the second piece of our share out here is I'd like to invite the states to share with us those 2 to 3 takeaways or commitments or areas that you are going to delve into with your partners in your states as we move forward and through the Bay program work. We're going to go through this alphabetically because that's what we decided to do, and we're gonna start with Delaware. If I could have a representative from the Delaware group share out. We just have about 2 or 3 minutes for each group.
Hi, this is Ashley. I'd be willing to represent the state of Delaware.
Thanks, Ashley.
So, yeah, some of the priorities that seemed to surface in both of the conversations for Delaware, which was a very small group of about 8 or 9 of us got together, and what we feel that would kind of help both of the major themes from today's talks really show through some of our work is if we updated our environmental literacy plan. And so that's something that a lot of our partners and the DAEE, that's what we have on our work plan for if not this year, then the very next year. And then we also have a big push to support outdoor learning spaces in Delaware, both in the development of those spaces and then of course in the professional development of the teachers to use those spaces. So those were 2 of our big priority items that just seemed to surface whenever we got together to talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. And I encourage all the states listen in on each other's, and maybe somebody's got a way to crystallize an idea that you can utilize as well. Can we move over to the District of Columbia, Kamal Washington? So representative from DC.
Hi. Yes, hi. I'm Tia Bromstead, Deputy Assistant Superintendent for Health and Wellness for DC State Education Agency, OSSE. And we've really spoke a lot today about the unique opportunity that we have as we continue to recover from the pandemic to reimagine education in the district, not as a return to normal, but a collective movement towards better educational opportunities for all students. And so key opportunities as we move from focusing on safe reentry to long-term recovery and reimagining of schools, really thinking through how we are supporting schools with their use of new and enhanced outdoor learning spaces that were made available through ESSER funds to support instructional and social experiences beyond the physical distancing restrictions due to COVID. So how we are really encouraging schools and thinking critically about how they can continue to use these spaces to, as someone said earlier today, that outdoor learning is now here for the future and will be a critical part of the future. Also leveraging our existing investments in environmental literacy as well as physical and mental health to promote nature-based learning experiences as a strategy that supports the mental and physical well-being of all students and staff. As a social worker by trade, I can't tell you how powerful it is. One of the silver linings coming out of such an intense experience is that folks are very much aware of their mental and physical health and all of the activities and ways in which that can be impacted. And so we can use that as a tool to support us moving forward in our work. Continuing to apply lessons learned from the work we did during the pandemic to inform not only our strategy as a district, our coordinated strategy, but also hopefully fiscal investments moving forward into the next decade of programming. And then recognizing how important it's going to be for us to take these lessons learned and translate them into key messages for district leaders who are not experts in environmental education, but are important drivers for prioritizing future investments.
Right on. Thank you, Tia. Can we hear from the Maryland group next?
Hi, everybody. Bruce Les from MSDE. And we talked a lot about how we want to take what we already have in place and make it more effective, and grow on the base that we built. And I would agree with our DC counterparts, taking a look at what COVID has provided us as a challenge and building off of it and making sure that we improve upon what we provide for students in terms of environmental literacy and outdoor education. Looking at some opportunities to leverage funding, to work on communication, and then also really to continue the work that Kirsten Jackson has initiated around the training of pre-service teachers and putting them in a position to be more knowledgeable about the environmental literacy standards in Maryland and its impact across disciplines. So we're looking forward for continuing the work and being able to do it face-to-face here hopefully soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce. We have a representative from New York.
Yes, so this is Betsy. Our biggest things that we took away was that we need a statewide convening to help bring this into a more important role. And we realized that we have an uphill battle with the State Department of Education, but we were considering working with the BOCES units, which are groups that most school districts buy into to help with curriculum planning and other resources. And then the second big thing that we've been discussing is a youth listening session and bringing in youth voice into to help highlight that this is an immediate concern and we need to take a major focus on this. And having youth talk to elected officials, and seeing how we can pull in the new NOAA curriculum and tie it with some of our state ed curricula, teacher professional development credits. So those were our three big ones. Anyone else want to add in? But I think that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Betsy. Pennsylvania, PA.
Okay, Dave Volkman this afternoon. It was a very great. I've got all these notes, but I'm going to get started here. If anybody on our team wants to jump in, they certainly can. But I think one of the things we took away from a discussion that we had later in the day was our need to support environmental literacy as part of career exploration for many of our students, for all of our students, to help all of our students, and especially our underrepresented students here in Pennsylvania, have the tools they need to gain not only awareness, but also to become engaged in pathways that could possibly take them down the road to either work in the environmental studies and or in climate change areas. So we want to help them make informed decisions regarding their future and specifically tied to environment. And then we talked a little bit more about environmental literacy, obviously, because that was the keynote of everything we were doing today. And we actually, and representing the Department of Education, I know everybody always says you're from the Department of Education and you're our friend. And we know that's not always true with some of the things we have to do based on policy and based on statute. But looking at using environmental components as an integral process as part of the curriculum. I know the session we had early this morning was excellent, talking about how social studies is not just for social studies. It should be inclusive, as should math, as should obviously in science, certainly we know about in English. So creating those strategies and tools through professional development for our instructors, we think is something that we can do. And actually the Department of Education can help do that. We have intermediate units across the state. There are 29 of them, but we see them really as critical partners, and especially due to the cost differentials that many of our school districts experience. But again, focusing on the environment. And and on CTCs, we started to talk a little bit about that, but the one thing I really didn't know about, which is sort of an embarrassment, having worked at the Department of Education, we talked a little bit about our civic responsibilities. And I found out that we in Pennsylvania have, as part of our Constitution, society's sacred responsibility and to civic responsibility, quite honestly. And so understanding environmental literacy, I think, and how to seek the knowledge and to take action from that is going to be very helpful. So, there's a lot here, but I think we really are moving in the right direction in spite of everything we've been through the last year. I mean, the last 15 months have been really difficult with COVID and everything else. But as we come out on this side of it, I think our focus on professional development for our teachers, and certainly in the area of environment and climate, is extremely important. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you, Dr. Wolfman. Virginia.
Well, I have to agree with that last statement about professional development. And I will admit, when we went into our sessions, we came up with probably 4 main strands that we would like to pursue among the people that were in our group. But the biggest strand aligns to professional development, and not only professional development of formal educators, but that of non-formal educators. We would like to come up with some climate change professional development and educate both formal and non-formal educators through a virtual training on what is the evidence of climate change, what are pedagogies for using the science and engineering practice to support student decision-making and enable them to make these decisions. And we do have some existing trainings that are going on, but how can we use our resources across our different agencies, through VRUEC, through our organizations such as VAEE, to build a free, accessible platform for both formal and non-formal, so that they have the efficacy, or can develop the efficacy, to teach and understand and explain and engage people with the science and engineering practices in climate change. So that would be our big focus moving forward.
Thanks very much, Ann. And West Virginia.
Hey, Tom, this is Vicki. I'm going to be really brief. We had a lot of good ideas and a lot of discussion. 2 really concrete things that we would like to do moving forward is to reinvigorate our West Virginia Environmental Education Association. It might not look the same, but the power of that network actually, I think, will then help be part of the solution to some of the other things that we talked about as far as funding and having a voice, having a larger voice as a group instead of just individual organizations and entities. So that is a big takeaway that we want to move forward with. And the other one pertains to our only program that we've got going on over in the Eastern Panhandle, and really piloting a 3-county position for environmental literacy. One of the things about the environmental justice and equity, and really the equity issue, is most of our schools and our county district offices are underfunded and understaffed. So time is always the enemy. But if we had, most of our counties do not have environmental literacy coordinators. Our state doesn't have environmental literacy coordinator. Most of our science coordinators are actually multiple. Many counties don't even have one specific science coordinator. So we would have a plan moving forward to pilot an idea of a 3-county environmental literacy coordinator that we can see if we can move the needle forward that way.
Right on. Thank you, Vicki. And thanks to everyone for sharing out. It's clear that we need to up the level of investment. I heard professional development there several times. I heard partnerships, and I heard some really interesting focus areas to take this work in a new and larger direction. And we're certainly going to have to invest more. And part of that will be the collective action that we can take within our states. And part of that will be the collective action that we can take as a whole group with our federal partners, many of whom have joined us here today, and to access new streams of resources, which has also, I think, been a theme running throughout the day, because we're going to have to increase this work dramatically and rapidly to address both equity and climate change.